Hello everyone, my name is Artemis Black and today is FAQ day in the Blood Bowl community. Whoop. I'd be more whoopish if you couldn't tell from the screen in front of you that uh, there is something in it that makes me very unhappy. Like, it's not all bad. It's not even mostly bad. As with most FAQs, it's mostly good because obviously it's an FAQ, right? But there's always something in these FAQs that is just either wrong or bad or makes something worse. And this time, uh, there's something that I think is unforgivable. And I'm doing this live, so we have a chat with us. People will be able to comment and I'll answer questions and stuff. This is not just one of my listicle videos where I'm recording it by myself in a room. People are here to say hello. Say hello, people. So first up, wait, it's not working. First up, there we go. I'll do that. We have the good. I'll be honest with you, right? I was going to do the entire FAQ, but a bunch of the FAQ is literally just irrelevant. Like, it's the answers we all already knew and had agreed on, and I have no idea why it's in there. So I've concentrated primarily on things that are actually questions. Even if we got the right answer, we acknowledge that they were questions. So first up, we have the dice rolling thing. This was a great change. We all already agreed that this was not correct. So you can now modify dice rolls before one. Agility 1+ was broken before, and now they've agreed with us that it shouldn't be that way. Great. I'm not going to go too heavy into these. As you can hear from my yawning and coughing, my condition is pretty bad lately. So second up, we have the turnover, changing the bullet point. This was the one where there was a weird edge case where if you tried to hand off the ball and it ended up in the possession of the opponent, it didn't cause a turnover. And you could blitz him and get it back and carry on with your turn, which is insane. But that's how it was written. Now it's been rewritten. That's off the board. Great. They've added traits to the skills, so no longer a vampire's screwed if they're prone, that kind of thing. So that's pretty good too. And then they've added the ball and chain can't be chomped, which is a fun little change. Like, no one really had talked about it, but yeah, I guess it is stupid. And they fixed the team captain thing, which said killed, and now it's removed from your roster, which is obviously correct, right? And again, these are things that are great that they've agreed with us with, that they were stupid. We'd already house ruled these things in Fumble and across leagues in the world. So all of these things, really good. They've agreed with us. Good. Then we have a kind of odd section, and I'll tell you why in a second. Oh, wait, hang on. Is this jump the page? I'll find out now. This is where they made changes to the players. So they've changed the Renegade Ogre from Loner 4+ to Loner 3+. Without any note underneath it. I have no idea why that's a thing. I've put it in the good because it's a good change for Renegades who aren't a good team. But they didn't change the other two big guys to Loner 3+, just the Ogre. And they gave it Mighty Blow, which we all assumed was a typo, which is fine. And then they've also added Agility. I don't know why two of them are pink and one of them's black. I also don't know why that is. They're all the same change. So they've added Agility to the secondary for Dwarf Runners, which again, we thought was a typo because the Dwarf Runner obviously should have Agility for a secondary, and it did have on Old World Alliance, so we just assumed it was a typo, same as the Mighty Blow, right? Yeah, but Chimera, the one above is also a. Oh, the Mighty Blow was in the first FAQ. Thank you, Chimera. I forgot there was a 3-line FAQ when it came out. My bad. I'd forgotten all about that. So the other changes on here are fine, right? That whole section is changed. You might notice I split this section into two, and there's a reason for that. One at the bottom, goblins on orc teams changed it to 4+ because it's a goblin, right? And the goblins on the goblin team are 4+. So just typos, really. Just changing typos. However, except for this renegade one, that's not fixing a typo. That's an actual change. I'll get back to that on the next page. So other things that are good. They clarified the dodging order. So tentacles first, because tentacle stops you moving. So none of this, like, getting tentacled in a square that's away from the tentacle guy, etc. So all that's fine. They've clarified you can jump multiple times in a turn, that we all already assumed anyway. The next one is odd, but I'm glad they clarified it. I guess people had a problem with it, how to get randoms. I don't even know I saw anyone ask that question. That is the one, by the way, that I cut out. And I was like, I'm going to not do this entire FAQ because I don't even know who would ask that. That was all completely explained in the rulebook. So they've clarified that stabbing and chainsaws cost movement like a blitz does. That's good. People did argue about that. And I think people mostly argued about that because it was wrong on Blood Bowl 2, the video game. Can I hire an apothecary? Yes. So the next one I actually like, because me and Jim had a minor... honestly, me and Jim don't disagree on much. This was one of the things we disagreed on. I agreed with Fumble, which is this answer. If a player declares... Oh, no, wait, sorry. It's the one underneath it. That's the thing. This one is just declaring if you declare secure the ball, which we already assumed, right? If someone shadows you to it or on the balls to it, that's happening after you've declared secure the ball. You can't then undeclare secure the ball. That's like a time travel paradox. So that's fine. But at least it's clarified it. But the one underneath is, does rain count? And yeah, it does. Because it's a pickup action. And I agreed with this. I agreed with Fumble, like, deciding to go this way. Jim didn't like it. But now it's in the FAQ. It's right. And then this one is an actual change. Even though they don't seem to write underneath it or anything. Do bombs bounce? No. When they land in an unoccupied square, they explode. That doesn't quite answer the question correctly, as usual with these FAQs. They always landed in an unoccupied square. The point is, they said to treat it like a pass. If a ball lands in an unoccupied square, it bounces. So that second sentence is stupid. Just no would have been good enough. Do bombs bounce? No. Stop talking, because you made it worse with the second sentence. Play with the lone fowler skill. So they clarified that if you reroll something, those previous dice don't exist. That's fine. The chomped and trickster interaction is something that I don't think ever came up, but it's nice that they clarified it. Can a player from the benefit from pick me up if the player with the trait is distracted? Good Lord, come on, people. No, obviously not. Can team captain be used with mascot? It's nice that they clarified that. Again, we got the rule right, but it's good that they've written it down. Really good clarification on this one. Is each individual elite skill allowed to be taken 4 times, or is the total number of elite skills to be taken 4, and it's each individual one? Like, obviously it was that, right? It was crazy if it was the second one, but there was some ambiguity to the language. So even though we all got the right answer, well, most of us, it's good that they've clarified that you get a turnover if you get eaten. No. Again, right? We all know the right answer, but it's nice that these clarifications come in. And then the animal savagery one was Again, just ambiguous language. I think Fumble got this wrong, actually, but this is obviously the right answer. Yes, of course. It can continue to move afterwards. There was ambiguity around the language with stab and hit and run because it does say your activation immediately ends, but obviously the whole point was it was supposed to be doable this way, and so they've clarified that. So that's all the good clarifications. There are a bunch of stuff that is just, is water wet. They're all good too, that I'm sure someone cared about, but most of the stuff, the rest of the stuff that we don't cover in these rest pages, are irrelevant rather than good or bad. So those were all good changes, and some of them very good. Unfortunately, that's where that ends. Because the very first thing I want to bring up on this bad section is they've added Loner to the Old World tree, but they haven't changed the name. It's still an Alton Forest Treeman. Alton Forest Treeman don't have Loner. So the whole point of well, not the whole point, but a big part of the roster changes in third season were to unify the positions across different teams. Old World Alliance is currently so good because it has dwarves from the dwarf team and humans from the human team, and they're exactly the same player type. That's why Old World Alliance got so good. And then across the board, whenever there was a problem, as we saw earlier, we assumed it was a typo because of that. But they haven't taken this FAQ to fix other things. The ogre on a chaos team is just called ogre, not chaos ogre. It's just called ogre. So now we have ogres just called ogres across 4 different teams that have 4 different rules. One has a different loner. One has primary access to mutations. Like, one doesn't have loner at all. Like, it's crazy. They've undone the change. Oh, like the teams that are combined, Old World Alliance, Underworld. Oh god, I can't talk. My nose is completely blocked. Old World Alliance, Underworld had the best parts of the changes to the other teams that were nerfed. Underworld just got a better gutter runner and a better blitzer. Old World Alliance got better everything because they tried to unify the player types. And then they've undone that by giving the Old World Alliance Loner and earlier changing the Renegade Ogre to Loner 3+. That's just weird. It feels like the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. So I don't really understand why this is a thing. Like, just to be clear, Old World Alliance are great. Giving the Tree Man Loner, it's not going to affect their win rate, really. Like, it might knock 0.1% off for the few times where they had to throw a teammate with a tree and he failed the throw teammate and then failed a loner or something. Like, how many games is that going to affect? So this doesn't really do a big thing. This doesn't nerf Old World Alliance or anything. They're still going to be the best team. But it does screw with why all of those changes seem to exist. So it's a really weird change. And so I've included it in bad. Across from it here, what happens if my ball and chain player moves off the pitch? So there was a reason for asking this question. And the answer they've given does not answer the reason for asking the question. They count as having been pushed into the crowd. We already knew that. The normal rules for this apply. Yeah, that's why the question is being asked. Ball and chains, if they get knocked down and armor broken on the pitch are automatically KO'd. There's no stunned result. Are you telling me that if I get pushed into the crowd, even though I'm automatically armor broken, I can be stunned? Because that's the reason why anyone's bothered to ask that question. You can't be stunned on the pitch, but you can be stunned off the pitch. That makes no sense. So, again, like, they don't even understand why the question's being asked. What is the sequence in which, yeah, it goes into reserves? That's what happens if you get pushed off the pitch and you're stunned. You go in reserves, which is just odd, right? What is the sequence in which the distracted condition is removed and the distracted player declares their actions? How does this affect what skills I can use to declare special actions? So choose a player to activate the player. Distracted is removed, declare the player's action. So they've changed it. Good. Because one of the craziest things about this, the reason it's in bad is because it doesn't cover the other thing properly. I would like to have seen it include big guys who have to roll like Bonehead or whatever. Because that's not in here, and I would like that to have been included because it's very much relevant to that. But it is good that it exists because before, for example, if you were prone and you'd been hypnoed before you got knocked prone, a ball and chain didn't have ball and chain when it activated, so it was just like a strength 7 goblin. Which is pretty funny. So there were a lot of bad interactions and funny interactions. But it would be nice if it included the nega traits, so I've put it in the bad just for that reason. And also is next to another one that's in bad, just because I didn't want this to be the answer. Can I use team rerolls during the charge kickoff event? Yes, we kind of knew. I mean, that is what it was before. I don't even know why the asking is there. Well, I was hoping the answer would be no. Simple as that. Like, putting charge back to the old really bad blitz is stupid. So I don't want that to be the answer, even though it is the answer. Oh, excuse me. So the next two are there because I hate them. They didn't quite make the ugly, but it's close. The thing is, they've answered the wrong question, Muppet. Again, they don't understand why anyone's asked this. Can I use Brawl or Grab during a blitz? No, they both become into effect declaring a block action. Sure, but we knew that. What I assume the question is, because they wrote no and they haven't clarified this, grab counters sidestep. If you blitz with someone with grab, it should still count a sidestep. The same way the Juggernaut auto counters things. Grab auto counters sidestep. But because they've just said no, now people are going to argue when you blitz a sidestepper with a grab piece that they still have sidestep. Because in the rule book, in the rules, those are two separate parts of grab. So it's very annoying that they've just answered no, because that's incorrect. What they should have said is, You can't grab someone during a blitz. You can't move them to any square around you. But the sidestep cancelling part of grab still exists. So they've screwed that up. They've made that worse. And that's going to need another FAQ in the future. I guarantee you that's going to be in the next FAQ. And until then, how are people going to rule it? It's going to be another argument. And then the one underneath is just annoying. They give the right answer and then just, for some reason, some commentary. When drafting a team, a maximum of half my players can have the insignificant trait. In a league, can I fire all non-insignificant players after the first game and replace them with insignificant players? If you go back to when the rules came out, I literally made a big thing about this because I like snotlings. And I was like, this only hampers you for the first game. You can't have it be an ongoing rule because, like, if you take damage, you are screwed. You won't be able to legally field a team. So after game one, you just fire the shitty fun hoppers and whatever and get more snotlings in their place because they're low-cost linemen. And then you only have to care about insignificant when you redraft. To one game a season, you have to care about insignificant. And they've agreed that that's the answer. Yes, so long as firing players doesn't bring you below 11. And then for no reason at all, we would suggest chatting with your league commissioner before doing so, however. Why? What would I chat with them about? How cool I am that I worked out that your rule is shit? This is not my fault that you can't write a rule properly. What would the league commissioner have to say about it? No, you can't do that. You just said I can. I literally have no idea why that sentence is there. Like, why would you write that in an FAQ? What question is that answering? It's insane. Like, I genuinely have no idea what they're talking about. I read this and I had to read around it. I was like, what? I read it like a couple of times. I don't understand. What's the problem? The first sentence is the correct answer, and then the second sentence is trying to shame you for understanding the correct answer and listening to it. So yeah, screw them. And this one gets its own page because it's dumb as shit, because all it shows is that Games Workshop don't understand their own stalling rule. If a player with Fumblerooski has the ball and can score a touchdown without having to roll any dice, but places it on the ground during their activation, do you still determine if the crowd takes action? That's not a question. We already knew the answer to that because the rule is written underneath. Yes, if anything, constantly putting the ball down is just stalling by showing off. Look, don't try and be funny in an answer when you haven't understood the actual problem with the question. So the rule is written underneath. If a player could score a touchdown without rolling any dice and therefore would be deemed to be stalling, if they declare a pass or a handoff and finishes their action no longer in possession of the ball, then this is not deemed to be stalling. I think most people can work out where I'm going with this. So if you have a player with Fumblerooski, all you do is declare a pass or a handoff. And then just don't do a pass or a handoff and put the ball down. Instead, you are no longer stalling because you declared a pass or a handoff and you finished the action no longer in possession of the ball. You literally fulfill every part of that rule which is the only reason Fumblerooski came up in this conversation. And Games Workshop do not realize that because they do not realize the 100 different implications of their shittily thought out stalling rule. So they answered the question completely irrelevantly. So this changes nothing. So if anyone's out there and you've got pro elves, just do what I just said. Declare a pass or a handoff when you start the move, and then just Fumblerooski the ball onto the ground. You do not have to do the action that you declare. That is a Blood Bowl rule. You can declare a blitz and then not blitz. So this is utterly irrelevant as an FAQ answer. It's completely stupid. And then this is the reason why this FAQ sucks donkey balls. We were hoping that this would be changed, that they didn't realize how bad this rule was. Like immediately, like for example, fumble, the biggest use of this for progression in the world, house ruled this away because it's so garbage. And Fumble try to stay as close to Games Workshop rules as possible, and this rule is so utterly obnoxiously terrible, universally hated, except for one thread of idiots on a subreddit, that Fumble immediately house ruled it. And not only did they not fix it, they double downed on it. Many people have asked us about the change into the hiring firing order. The FAQ reiterates that the order present is correct. If you fire a positional, you need to wait a game before hiring a replacement. This does reflect a big change from the previous edition, and all of the previous editions for like the last couple of decades. And we know that opinions are divided. Yes, they are divided like 99% to 1%. Technically, that is divided. This is the worst change to Progression Blood Bowl in decades. It makes me not want to play Progression Blood Bowl. The worst part of the game is injuries. They ruin your game. Like, you lose the game. You can lose players. You have to rebuy players who don't have the skills of the dead ones. Injuries are the worst part of the game for, competitive purposes. Doubling the effect of injuries is batshit. Yes, so they halved the positionals on a lot of teams, and now they've made it so if one of those positionals gets injured, you can't rehire a replacement for the next game. So they really have leaned into people purposefully trying to kill players who are injured. If you get an injury on your player and you roll an Apo roll and it says death, you are better off selecting death. In what universe does that sound like a well thought out rule? Exactly. Exactly, TLT. It's bad enough to lose a skilled Saurus in the first place. That's already a horrific blow to the team. But now you lose a Saurus completely for the next game. It's utterly ridiculous. Yes, there is not a team that won't hate this. Halflings and gnomes. What if their tree gets injured? They got to play one tree the next game. That's basically a loss. And worse than a loss, the one tree now can't defend the team properly because it's one tree. So you're taking more injuries. It snowballs the first person to get a bad injury into possible, like, death spiral. The thing that we all have hated is a death spiral, right? It's really hard to get out of a death spiral. And they're making it worse. Yeah, it's the positionals that are the problem. No one cares about the linos, right? But positionals now, especially with the limited amount, are a big part of the team. Your two big uns instead of the old four now are huge for an Orc team. Getting one busted and you can't replace him with another big un for the next game, even if you've got the money, is mental. The argument in this dumb thread, by the way, was literally just, well, it's good. It makes injuries, like, more important. That's literally the opposite of good. That was the only argument they had. It was so dumb, it wasn't even worth arguing with them. So the problem is, now that they've doubled down on it, I suspect Fumble will introduce this. They had a reason to house rule it before because it was kind of ambiguous, you know? It was a new rule. They could have not realized the effect it was going to have. But now they've come out and just said, yeah, we know it's shit and we love it. So the rest of the ugly is just, I don't believe any of the stuff they've written. The third season edition release changed the landscape of competitive Blood Bowl. Yeah, for the worse, just to be clear. We've been tracking internal and external data since then. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that's a lie. What possible internal data could they have? They don't have, like, a 40-man Blood Bowl league going on in the back room of, like, Nottingham. And I have access to all the external data they have. It's literally just NAF stats, which are irrelevant to the rules, because, as I'll talk about in a minute. So there's no data. There's literally no data.
Oh my God, Ross is very insistent that it's now dinner time. Oh my God.
That's a tree. Why have I got a tree talking?
Hello, everyone. Professional streamer here. Just showed everyone her emails. Don't think it was anything too exciting.
Someone raided tree. Did Jim raid someone and then someone... Anyway, the raid thing on Twitch is really annoying. It turns off mute. If you're watching someone and they're muted, and they raid someone else, when the mute goes off, what a stupid thing that is. They still haven't fixed it years later. Anyway, the data, the imaginary data. So there's no data, right? This is just stupid. Individual team performance is still shifting and is often dependent on the rules used at specific tournaments. Not often, always dependent on the rules used at specific tournaments. At present, we're choosing to wait for a few additional large data points over the coming months. What does that mean? This feels written by, like, ChatGPT. What's a large data point for Blood Bowl? But they're not data points. I'll explain why in a second, Paul. So this moves on to tier changes are our first protocol to address balance. And we're doing just that with the FAQ. Dwarves are being moved down to tier 2 in response to their lower win rate. Their lower win rate, where? Because you'll see the stats I put underneath. That is the NAF win rate for dwarves. It is down in stunties. So why are they, if it's in response to their lower win rate, why are dwarves only being moved down to tier 2? So they can't mean that. If you were going to change the tiering based on the NAF win rates, obviously you wouldn't put dwarves in tier 2. Their win rate is below halflings. And then it says, we have our eye on a few other teams as well. Nurgle Human and Elven Union? What does that mean? The thing that bothers me about this whole paragraph, no one uses Games Workshop tiering. Has anyone even seen a tournament in real life that uses the tiering out of the rule book? Everyone in Blood Bowl knows Games Workshop don't know what they're talking about. No one uses their tiering. So how could they have any data? It's absolute nonsense. So we have, for me, we have lots of good, right? Just because I've been ranting the last 5-10 minutes, we have lots of good. There definitely is good in this. All of the early changes in the good pages, they were good. A couple of clarifications that stopped arguments. A couple of things that I think were the right decision. But then we had bad stuff, which was just either the wrong answer or didn't understand the question being asked. And then at the end here, we've got, hey, I'm glad you've liked playing Blood Bowl for the last 20 years. Progression Blood Bowl. But now we've shit on it completely from a great height. So have fun with that. I don't think I will play in any progression format that uses this rule. So if Blood Bowl 4, Warhammer Blood Bowl ever happens and it's got this rule in it, I won't play ladder. If Fumble changed their house rule and go back, I don't even know if I'll play Black Box Trophy. Which is incredibly sad because that removes 90% of my Blood Bowl. It's so bad. It's so completely terrible. Just sitting there. It's like I said, you've seen it, right? You have seen, like, I've played Black Box Trophy or I've played Progression Ladder on Blood Bowl 3, and good players have been in the chat, and, like, someone one dice pows my Blodge Vampire into Kaz, Death, non-regen, and literally 3 different people are like, this is why I don't play Progression. That's how bad that is as it is. Like, that's under the current rules. And now if instead of death that was a strength bust, I don't get that vampire back for the next game either. That's absolutely insane. It is increasing the effect of RNG. That's all it is. The exact opposite of what you want a rule set to do. What is the point in getting good at something that keeps increasing the effect of RNG? We have Games Workshop using the rules to increase the effect of RNG. We have tournament organizers in the world making Poverty Bowl rule sets for things like Euro Bowl, which increase the effect of RNG. All to make people who can't play feel better. Because they win a bit more. It's Blood Bowl is on a precipice at the moment, in my opinion. People need to like change their shit. Between these crappy rules for progression and Poverty Bowl for resurrection, Blood Bowl's in the worst place competitively it's been in years. Not fun-wise, it's as popular as it's ever been, but competitively, it's in a really, really crappy place. And competition drives the hobby. Like, there is a beating heart at the center of the Blood Bowl hobby, and it is the competitive circuit. It doesn't matter that they're dwarfed in numbers by people who just play for fun. It matters that the people who play for fun are in and out. They come and go. The competitive circuit is filled with players who play from year to year to year. They keep it alive. Anyway, I mean, RIP progression Blood Bowl, I guess. Which is my favorite kind of Blood Bowl, so maybe Fumble will just bin this stupid rule. And we'll get lucky, and we'll have Fumble to play. Maybe. Everyone cross your fingers. And we did this here on Twitch. Here I am, etc. I'm sure when I post this, people will be like, negative again. It's like, yeah, about the negative parts. It's always so annoying to be like, you ignored 50% of the video. And in this case, the negative parts are of bigger import than the positive parts. There were a lot more positive parts, but they weren't as game impacting as the negative bit. Games Workshop not understanding questions that are asked of them is not a surprise, but also pretty bad. Not understanding how terrible the rule is for progression, not surprising, but pretty bad. So, thank you for watching. I'm going to go back to making videos to try and make people better at Blood Bowl and try to ignore the fact that they probably shouldn't be playing anymore because it's crap now. Awful. All right, see you next time.